So the theme for this week's post and focus here on Future Human Project is looking at proxies for real life experiences, proxies for primal experiences in specific, and how when we are living through proxies, that impacts our mental health. So what do I mean by proxies for primal experience? So consider that things like junk food, porn, gaming, social media are not real world experiences in the way that our nervous system is built and designed and primed for. These are proxies. These are approximations or false versions of real life experiences that our nervous system knows and expects, but because it's not the actual experience, it tends to impact us in a different way. So obvious example here would be, say, junk food is not the same thing as eating really real nourishing food, right? It gives us similar reward signals. It gives us pleasure. It gives us flavor, but it does it so in this hyper novel way that's only designed to optimize for the pleasure and not for the actual nourishment of the body. So while our brain gets the signal that we're getting pleasure, our body simultaneously realizes that it's being malnourished, which is why we tend to want to eat more because the calories are empty calories, right? Same thing is true, for example, with porn, right? Porn is for men a proxy, and for women increasingly, and for non-binary people increasingly, it's a proxy for intimacy. It's a proxy for touch, for physical, direct sexual encounters with people, but only to certain parts of the brain, right? It is not at all the same thing as actually being with a real person in person and experiencing the entirety of their energetic field and the way they smell and the subtle dynamics between people and the subtle communication between people and all that. There's a lot there that gets deleted out of watching a video online. Same thing with gaming. Same thing with social media, right? Like gaming is a proxy for adventure, let's say. Social media is a proxy for actual social connection with people in real life, in person, right? It is not the same thing. It is parasocial. It is not social. And the point I want to make about all these proxy experiences is I suspect, and it's kind of been my experience, I'll share a bit about my own experience here, that the more we live through proxy experiences for the real thing, some part of our brain knows that that's not real, and it starts to massively negatively impact our mental health. I mean, obviously with something like porn or junk food, for example, these are things that are massively leveraged, actually all of these, are massively leveraged towards dopamine stimulation. So they're also asymmetrical in terms of the impact they have on our neurology. We're not getting a similar amount of other neurochemical experiences. It's not a balanced experience to, say, be on social media, right? That's not at all what actual socialization with real human beings is like. A completely other thing. Because of that, the way it impacts us is imbalanced. And I think that's true with all these proxy experiences. But more than that, there is a term in somatic therapy circles called neuroception. And the idea of neuroception is that it is nervous system perception. That, in other words, the deeper part of our nervous system, not just our prefrontal cortex and our cognitive mind, but our deeper nervous system also has a type of perceptual ability. And it knows deeply what's real and what's not, and what you're experiencing and what you aren't. So while you can be, of course, getting some sort of a reward signal because you're tricking part of your brain from these proxy experiences, I think there's a deeper part of our nervous system that knows the difference between a real experience and a fake experience, between a healthy experience and an unhealthy experience. And the more we live through these proxy experiences, we get that signal at the more superficial level that, oh, this is great. This is a wonderful stand-in for the real thing. But our deeper nervous system becomes malnourished and never gets the actual nourishing experience of the real thing. Is it 100% a different thing to be gaming online with your buddies from safety of your own couch versus getting out in the wilderness and having a real adventure? or traveling abroad or sailing on a boat or doing physical things. It's completely different, right? And so this week, we're going to be exploring how these proxy experiences impact the brain, how they are not at all the same thing. And I said I'd give a little bit of my own personal share here, so I'll share this and we'll call it done. I went through a period where I started following paleo folks in the early 2010s, changed my diet to paleo, started trying out a paleo diet for a period of time, and started reading the blogs of people like Mark Sisson, for example, other thinkers in the space who all kind of emphasized a more primal lifestyle. In other words, touching grass, right? As the saying goes, getting out there, getting sunshine, breathing fresh air, moving frequently, engaging with real social contact with other people, eating real whole foods that are recognizably foods, real fruit and vegetables and whatnot. And that there's something about that again nourishes the body and the mind and the deep nervous system in a way that modern life typically doesn't. And I tried this experiment myself. I've tried to just live more primally, more in alignment. And what I found as I did that was these deep feelings of well-being arising in me, these deep feelings of contentment and happiness and joy that I hadn't felt since I was a kid, to be frank. And I don't think that's a coincidence. Every time I've run this experiment of living a bit more in alignment with how our hunter-gatherer ancestors would have, the healthier and the happier I become. And so there's a balance there for each of us to strike. I'm a modern person talking to you in a building with cell phone, obviously, and a microphone and blah, 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 right? I'm not averse to modern tech either, but I think there's a balance for each of us to strike. So that's it for now, and that's going to be the theme this week. We're going to be unpacking some of these primal proxies and what happens when we don't get the real experience. All right, see you in the next one.